Welcome back to the channel, where today we're diving into historical blunders so massive they redefine the word strategy. We're talking about the 1938 Yellow River flood, and no, this wasn't a natural disaster. This was an executive decision. It was the moment the Chinese Nationalist government looked at the relentlessly advancing Japanese army and said, "You know what? If we can't have this land, nobody can, except maybe the fish. They can have it." To really get the scale of this catastrophe, you first need to understand the Yellow River itself. This river is historically complicated. It's known as the mother of China for nurturing civilization, but it is also called China as sorrow because it has a nasty habit of trying to murder its children. It's killed millions completely naturally, but in 1938, it got drafted into military service. The stage was set. The Japanese Imperial Army was absolutely bulldozing its way through China. Beijing had fallen, Tianjin had fallen, Shanghai had fallen. They were now charging toward the critical railway junction of Zhengzhou, which was the gateway to the wartime capital, Wuhan. Chiang Kai-shek, the leader of the nationalist government, was running out of options, running out of men, and rapidly running out of map. So, in a moment of pure panic desperation, the kind of panic that makes you wonder if anyone has slept in weeks, someone proposed a nuclear option of the time: flood the Central Plains. The logic was beautifully simple, if horrifyingly lethal. The idea was to create a massive, muddy, impassable barrier that would halt the mechanized Japanese advance. Think of it like putting a tiny speed bump in front of a tank, except the speed bump is 50,000 square kilometers of raging death water. In early June 1938, near the village of Waiwanko, the work began. At first, they tried using explosives, but the results were a bit underwhelming and failed to properly break the dikes. So, they did what any resourceful, desperate army would do. They forced thousands of conscripted peasants and soldiers to grab shovels and just start digging by hand. On June 11th, the dikes finally gave way. The river didn't just flood. It threw a complete and total temper tantrum. It abandoned its historic northern course and charted a brand new path straight south, tearing through the provinces of Henan and Wei and Jiangsu. The river essentially committed identity theft and started a whole new life, leaving utter devastation in its wake. The aftermath makes the military strategy look less like genius and more like calculated insanity. The water arrived instantly, swallowing everything in its path: villages, farms, entire communities gone in a flash. The immediate death toll estimates hover somewhere between 500,000 and 900,000. Zero people, and I have to stress this, these were not Japanese soldiers, these were Chinese civilians, of very people the government was supposedly trying to save. On top of the drownings, 3 million people instantly became refugees, forced to watch their entire world become an enormous, muddy lake. And if that wasn't enough, the complete destruction of farmland led to years of starvation. The floodwaters lingered, preventing planting and harvesting, which then led to widespread famine. This was followed by epidemics of diseases like cholera. It was a multi-year disaster cocktail, shaken, not stirred, by their own government. Now, here's a real kicker, and the source of all the historical arguments ever since. Did it even work? Well, sort of. In the short term, absolutely not. Wuhan, the city they were trying to protect, still fell to the Japanese later that same year. So, on the immediate objective, it was an epic fail. However, the gigantic, festering swamp they created did effectively stop the Japanese from pushing further west into Shaanxi and Sichuan. This protected Chiang Kai-shek's new wartime capital and its government from total collapse, giving them precious time to regroup and ultimately survive the war. So, in a twisted turn of fate, they sacrificed nearly 1 million of their own people, failed to achieve their immediate goal, but accidentally ensured their own long-term political survival. It was strategic self-sabotage that somehow, against all odds, paid off for the regime. Of course, the government didn't want to take credit for this masterpiece of a plan. Initially, they tried the classic deny strategy, blaming the Japanese for bombing the dikes. It was a lie they maintained for years, only admitting the truth in 1945, a full 7 years later. But the damage was done, and not just by the water. The political damage was immense. The nationalist government's callous disregard for the survivors, both during the flood and in the years of famine that followed, was a gift wrapped in mud for the emerging Chinese Communist Party. Mao Zedong's forces swooped in, offering aid, organization, and political solutions to the desperate and abandoned populace. In essence, The flood didn't just stop the Japanese advance, it helped pave the way for the communist victory and the subsequent Chinese Civil War. It's a truly chaotic reminder that sometimes the most disastrous thing you can do to your enemy is something horrible to yourself. Thanks for watching. If you found this dive into historical chaos as fascinating as I did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories of plans gone horribly wrong. See you next time.